of the during closed session, student discipline and other confidential matters in accordance to Education Code sections 35, 146, 48, 900, 48, 912. In the case of student matter 22-002, the board considered and moves to approve the staff recommendations for stipulated expulsion for the 2021-2022 school year. I'd like to ask for a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Okay.
Trustee Moss?
Yes.
Trustee Ferrucci?
Yes.
And Trustee Grubbs?
Yes.
In the case of student matter 22-003, the board considered and moves to approve the staff recommendation for stipulated expulsions for the 2021-2022 school year with the recommended recommendations.
I'll move to help me.
With the recommendations.
I move to with the to
Move to
approve the recommendation. Sorry.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Trustee Moss?
Yes.
Trustee Ferrucci?
Yes.
And Trustee Grubbs?
Yes.
All right, so 5.2, this meeting is recorded for live streaming and archiving on the district YouTube channel. I'd like to have us go for the Pledge of Allegiance. So Trustee Grubbs, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. At this time, I'd like to ask for an approval of the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Moss?
Yes.
Trustee Ferrucci? Yes. And Trustee Grubbs?
Yes.
Right. All right, item 8, reports. At this time, we'd like to hear from our students. So let's start with Alice from Liberty.
Good evening, President Zeta, Superintendent Dr. Young, and fellow trustees and cabinet members. My name is Alice Wells, and I'm Liberty's representative. First of all, we'd like to thank Benicia High School for hosting homecoming. Many of us attended, and we had a really good time. And they put on a really nice party, and there was a Spider-Man. We are excited to announce that we have a new resident artist, Amy Stello, from Happy Life Pottery. We are working with clay, and we are making little mugs. We want to thank Mr. Larney Fox for working with us. We hope to be part of the high school exhibit at the Benicia Public Library. Tomorrow, the Kyle Highland Foundation, along with Solano County of Education, will be visiting us tomorrow to talk about bullying and how it affects young people's mental health. This is important for all of us to understand, and we appreciate this opportunity. We are planning a Spirit Week for Halloween. We will be creating scarecrows, advisory competitions, and themed days. Last month, Miss Sauter's class won the overall, and we're going to keep it. Keeping with the October theme, next week many Liberty High School students have volunteered to clean up parts of the Benicia Cemetery. We'd like to thank Benicia Parks and Rec for helping us make this happen. Me and my friends are going to be attending. So, thank you and have a good evening.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Marie. Okay.
Hi, I'm Marie Marcus. I'm the Benicia High School ASB Vice President. And so last week was a very busy week. We had our homecoming week. And so on Wednesday, we had our movie night premiering the night before Christmas, there was a lot of people in attendance. So that was really nice to see. On Friday, we had our first rally for the year, and it was our first ever outdoor rally. And then we had the football game playing Miramonte High School, and we won. And then the halftime game, we had the seniors win. And then for the whole week, the seniors won the Spirit Week. And then on Saturday, we had the homecoming dance. There was a lot of people there. I think we sold roughly 1,200 tickets. So I think Miss Sweet said that is the highest attendance we had for a dance since, I think, 2010. And then So Bullying Prevention Month started. So yesterday we had Unity Day, and the school was wearing orange. We had orange shirts that were like kindness shirts. And then on Friday was the end of our quarter. And then today we participated in half of the Great California Shakeout because we didn't evacuate to the field because of the rain. And then upcoming we have Red Ribbon Week. So on Monday, the Spirit Day is anything but drugs, and the Spirit Day is anything but a backpack, which is like where you bring anything but a backpack. So students get really creative with that. And then Tuesday is Leave Drugs on Red, which is Wear Red. Wednesday is Duo Without Drugs, which is Twin Day or Iconic Duos. And then Thursday is Peace Out to Drugs or Hippie Day. And then Friday is Say Boo to Drugs, and it's Wear Your Halloween Costumes. And then we'll have a Halloween costume contest at lunch. And then this Friday we have an away football game at Acalanes High School.
All right, thank you. We absolutely appreciate hearing from both of you. So thank you so much for being here. And I do want to say that you are more than welcome to leave if you need to, but you're also more than welcome to stay, okay? We appreciate you. All right. Yay. All right, next is our superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. Good evening, board. Everybody has an opportunity to attend or watching this evening, and I want to thank the young ladies and also their comments about the bullying prevention activities that have been taking place at the high school. So I'm glad that they highlighted that. Just a couple things for me. I want to start off by thanking everybody, thanking the staff as we continue to navigate our worlds in the different space that we're in, and I'm just so impressed with the team that we've assembled throughout this district, classified, management, certificated. They're just showing up and doing a great job every day on behalf of kids. So I want to continue to thank everyone. We started off the day today with the internet. I think it was down in all of Benicia, and rallied around and got a message out. And again, flexibility with teachers are like, okay, plan B, which they're pretty expert at doing. So they adjusted and made it work, and then time eventually came back on, and we were able to resume. But it really makes you realize how dependent we are on technology. It's like our whole world. So again, the staff did great. I want to make a quick comment on the community forum that we had last Thursday, and we had talked about that in the past. Dr. Beetson had brought that up with our work with EPIC, and it was a really very positive communication effort with the community around our ongoing work with equity and opportunity. And now we're working with the group by the name of EPIC. And it was wonderful. I think we had about 45 parents there, and then we had a number of staff. We have representatives from all the staffs and all the departments. And it was a great conversation, and I think that it continues to move the effort forward around equity and opportunity. And the other thing that struck me, that the importance of that conversation, the other part, I was looking at our beliefs up there, what do we believe as an organization? And one of them is an education is a collaborative effort among students, staff, parents, guardians, and the community. So I saw that as, the medium is the message as well, right? And so here's an outreach to the community, which they very graciously showed up to partner with us in this conversation about how do we best meet the needs of all of our kids, and then particularly putting it through that equity and opportunity lens. So I think we're going to have at least one, maybe two more of those community forums. And there it is. So I just wanted to point that out, and thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, we have board reports. Do you have anything to report?
Just real quick, I participated in the El Capitan meeting with Dr. Beetson this past week. And I think the biggest piece coming out of that meeting is that the next phase that the team will be working on is identifying what criteria is going to be used to evaluate each of the components of our LCAP, so that we have something to make decisions and see progress. Right? Yes. Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, next is comments from members of the public. BUSD has moved to in-person board meetings. We ask that members of the public who wish to attend, including those who wish to address the board, wear a mask at all times. COVID Executive Order N-29-20 expired on September 30th. All functions of the board meeting, including public comments, will be done in person. Members of the public may address the board at regular board meetings on any item within board's jurisdiction. Speaker cards are available at the back table. Please note the item you wish to speak to and submit a card to the board secretary. The board president will then call all the open session public comments on the agenda item. During the public comment, comments for items on the agenda will be called during the specific item. Comments are limited to no more than 3 minutes per speaker, or the board may limit the total time to 20 minutes per item. By law, no action may be taken on any item raised during the public comment periods, and matters may be referred to staff for placement on future agenda items for the governing board. Please be reminded to keep your comments respectful, as students may be watching the board meeting. Thank you. So we do have one public comment. Mr. Andrew Miller.
Hi, you guys. Andrew Miller, parent of two students in the Benicia Unified School District. I was, as you know, I come up here every time and ask what we're doing to improve math, science, English, and history. And I know that you guys are using EPIC as a big part of your diversity, equity, and inclusion protocol to help do that. And I was fortunate enough to be a part of the meeting that you were talking about the other day. And I was very excited because I got to talk one-on-one with Dr. Brown. Dr. Brown is a very lovely person, and I enjoyed our conversation very much. However, she was not able to provide me, anytime I asked her with any kind of evidence or explanation as to how this work is going to help these kids improve in these areas. I asked her multiple times, and each time she said, well, we're gonna get the kids' stories and so forth. Well, I understand that. That's great that we get the kids' stories and all, but how are we gonna help them improve with their math, science, English, and history? And some groups are doing terrible, as you know, and other groups are doing okay. But she wasn't able to tell me any of this. So I'm wondering if maybe one of you guys can tell me what the diversity, equity, and inclusion protocol that you're using is going to do to help these kids. I just don't understand it. And she couldn't explain it to me, and this is the company that you guys have hired to help you with this. So I'm a little bit at a loss, and I'd like, if any of you could, you can email me, you all have my email by now, and tell me how this is helping the kids, any of them. I guess that's all I have to say. And again, she was a very lovely person, and I look forward to speaking to her again. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next, 10 consent calendar action items. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered by the board to be routine and will be approved by the board in one motion. There will be no discussion on these items unless members of the board, staff, or public request specific items be pulled and discussed. I'd like to call for a motion.
I'll move that the calendar be approved, the consent calendar be approved as presented.
I'll second that.
Trustee Moss,
Yes.
Trustee Ferrucci,
Yes.
and Trustee Gross.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, next, item 11, communication informational items. And we are going to hear about Measure S quarterly bond update by Ms. Egan.
Good evening. It's nice to see all you guys in person. It's been a while. Pardon me while I get organized here. So what is it just the top key to Georgina? Sorry. Is it just the top key to turn slide? This one? Okay, thank you. Little tutorial here. So gonna give you really the highlights for why I'm here tonight. We always come report back from information that was shared with our CBOC, our Citizens Bond Oversight Committee meeting. The last meeting we had was in July with them, and it was a very positive meeting. We continue to have a great committee. The full packet's in your packet. But I'm not going to go through the specifics of that unless you have questions you want me to. The second thing that I wanted to do is just to give you an overview, not just about the bond facilities funding, but other resources that we as a district have available to us. This one, can you scroll up? Thank you. So this is just a slide that was part of the packet that shows projects that are funded with our Measure S bond monies. The ones on the top left column are ones that are completed. And then in the middle, I'm gonna pull out my glasses so I can actually see. On the left-hand side in the middle, projects currently in construction. So we have the seismic upgrades at the middle school, Mary Farmer, HVAC and ADA upgrades. We're just in the punch list items. Really, most of that is done. And then at the high school, we've started doing exterior lighting improvement projects. Oh, thank you. So that's great for safety and security around the exterior of the spaces. On the right-hand side are projects that have funding allocated to them for our remaining Measure S monies, but that are either in planning or in line to start planning as we're able. This next slide that I have goes, so the last list was just our Measure S bond monies, and this expands on that a little bit to show us all of our resources that we have for funding for facilities improvements. So on the first line, you see Measure S bond remaining money. So our bond was for $49.6 million. Of that, we have approximately $12 million that are not spent, but all of it's allocated on the project list that you just saw. The next line item is our Prop 51 state bonds. And so last December, I shared with you guys a list of my projects that we have allocated to be funded with that. So we're really pleased at that time we were approved, but in line for funding. We've actually received some of that funding, and the other part of it that we haven't gotten yet, it's moved to the next step. So we're really pleased with all of that. The third line there for the additional $5 million is relatively new. So we just found out that we have $5 million more of eligibility for state Prop 51 funding. So that we have to go through the application process and everything, and it won't be 100% sure until we get everything approved, but knock on wood, I don't want to jinx us. We've been very successful with it, and we're gonna keep doing all those things as high priority as possible. The next line down is you see 2022 legislation. So early next year, we anticipate that similar to Prop 51, they have a new legislation that will allow the state to continue funding new projects as they're eligible. So eligibility usually comes when a building ages out, which they consider to be 20 to 25 years. So every year they reevaluate, well, all your buildings, and do you have new ones that hit that criteria? And then the next thing in trying to look at really what is our plan and how do, what's coming and how do we plan for that is a 5-year look ahead. So we've asked our consultant to look at all of our buildings, not just which ones are becoming 25 years of age today, but if we look at the next 5 years, how many of our buildings are going to hit that point, so we can start to try to think about, because that will be state monies that we have future eligibilities for. So that's all exciting. The next thing on there is AB 130. And I think that Dr. Beetson has shared a lot of stuff with you guys on this. I know that Tim and I'm sure Dr. Young have done a lot of work on it. So it's the new legislation for TK programming with expanded programs, but that also means we're going to need more facilities. So in March, they're anticipating opening up applications, and really they're still finalizing that legislation, and they have not identified how much funding they're going to give or what they're going to do. But just sharing out that we're watching that very closely, and as soon as we're able, we'll certainly be getting in line. The last thing on there is AB 841, and that is also legislation. It came into play by COVID and HVAC and plumbing needs. So that funding, it has been enacted. first round for eligibilities came out in November, but they prioritized for disadvantaged schools first. So our schools were not yet able to apply. They're going to continue rolling out additional funding. I think they do it twice a year, like in June and November or something like that. And so after the underserviced or disadvantaged schools get their applications in, then we'll be able to put in applications behind them. So this is kind of painting a picture of monies that we have and that we're still able to keep working on projects that are identified as priority and for need in our overall master plan. So that bottom number there of 27 million is the 12 million remaining from bond, the 10 million of our Prop 51 monies, the 5 million of additional eligibility. This next slide is just re-sharing with you projects. It's pretty much the same project list that we showed you in December to be funded with our state monies. So just kind of refreshing everyone's memory. We really have something at every school on this list. We've got additional budget for Mary Farmer. We're co-funding the seismic project at the middle school. We've got work at Matthew Turner, the high school, Joe Henderson, Robert Semple, and then some contingency at the bottom. Again, I'm just trying to do a reflection on what have we done and how did we get there and what all the parts and pieces are. So a couple years ago, we got Prop 39 grant monies in the amount of $1 million from the state. So that was great. And we were able to do energy upgrades. And then we also worked with our consultants and were able to get money to do solar projects through very low interest loans. The bottom item on the page that I wanted to point out is just that everybody helps and how we work together to make our bond money go farther. So maintenance jumps in and they do a lot of work, whether it's painting or projects where they are. They'll go into their list and share with you later, but I wanted to just give a shout out and give them credit for what they do. And IT does a lot for the district as well. And then I put together just a couple of slides. I won't go through all of the pictures and what they are, but at each school of some of the improvements that we've done. So this is the high school. We've got our new marquee up front. We've got tennis courts and plantings, our solar project in the stadium. So it doesn't show every single thing at every school, but just some graphics to help remind us what we've gotten done. The middle school. So we have our front entrance and we have new marquee, updated bathrooms and locker rooms. That was part of our seismic project, tennis courts. And then on the left-hand side, you see building G, which is the new set of classrooms that we did. This is showing Mary Farmer. So it's our schematic plan, which we just started and we've got a lot of work to do, but they have great opportunity and potential there. So in the beginning, they got a new roof. We have some playground equipment. On the right-hand side, you're seeing upgraded student bathrooms that came as part of the HVAC and ADA upgrades that we just completed. And they also got some great HVAC, which was very timely. Joe Henderson, we've got some solar panels and some playground equipment and furniture, new fencing, all these places, as fire alarms, IT, all of those types of things as well that you don't really see. And then Matthew Turner playground equipment. Most recently, we put up on the right-hand side, you see the letter C and also the text of office, and putting up some signage to help when you're on site, knowing where you're at, and to help with parents and students so that they are oriented more. That's what I have. Any questions?
All right, thank you.
Can I add just one thing? Thank you, Ms. Egan. What a wonderful report on our existing bond program, our school facility bond program. The voters passed a bond many years ago, and so we've done a lot of great things at all of our different schools. Ms. Egan pointed out the efforts that the school district have gone through to get other funding besides the local bond. including 10 million currently from the state and another 5 million that is going to be applied for. And then there's what were some solar funds and some other grant funds along the way as well. So we will be having another school facility item to present at the next school board meeting. And this is our school facility financial advisor is going to come forward and bring some information on two school facility items next board meeting. The first one, he's going to present some information on our existing local school bonds. And we're not sure if it's going to be a reality, but at this point, we wanted to provide information about considering what they call a bond refunding or a bond refinancing in order to get a lower interest rate, just like many folks are doing with their homes. The interest rate on our bonds can also be refinanced and can provide some taxpayer savings. So we're not sure if that is a reality, but there's a lot of paperwork to get established in order to take advantage of that if the time and the rates are good. So you'll hear about that next board meeting. And then secondly, Mr. Isom is going to present an item about what the school board options are if it was and the community was ever to consider another local bond. And so you'll hear both information on both of those items at our next school board meeting.
Thank you. Any questions? Well, thank you, and thank you for the thorough report. We appreciate it.
Great, thank you.
Okay. All right. Next, we have our NWEA map update by Mrs. Stephanie Rice.
Excuse me. Good evening, members of the board, cabinet, and community. My name is Stephanie Rice, and I am Director of Education Services, and I am going to co-present tonight with Ms. Lisa Golson. She is a teacher on special assignment working in education services as well. Before I jump right into this presentation, I just want to take a moment to recognize Ms. Golson, and she's probably not happy with me right now for doing this. But I want to publicly say thank you because she's really made it her charge to provide support and meet the needs of our staff to really unroll this assessment and really provide the support that's needed. For example, Ms. Golson has met individually with principals. She was a wingwoman to staff meetings. She zoomed in for our long-term independent study students to make sure that they were taking this assessment, as well as is working with departments now that we have results so that we really can dig in and use this information to aid in our instruction. So I just want to publicly say thank you for all the work that you do. I'm very blessed to work alongside her. All right, so the outcomes for tonight are to again create an understanding of what NWEA Map Growth Assessment is, the rationale for this assessment, as well as what supports it provides for our students and for instruction. I'm going to go out of order. Once a teacher, always a teacher, and when we prepare our lessons and we think there's a better flow, we change in the moment. So why use NWEA Map Growth? We chose this assessment in our district because this assessment is used for instruction. Everything we do is grounded in our vision, where all students achieve at their highest potential in an engaging, inspiring, and challenging learning environment. How do we get there? Well, we identified 4 goals in our LCAP that you're all familiar with. First goal being social emotional learning. The second one focusing on literacy and humanities. The third on math and STEAM. And the fourth on equity and opportunity. And what this assessment provides for us is reliable data, excuse me for that loudness, timely results, it's adaptive, it's not a grade level assessment. So whether the students are performing above grade level, performing below grade level, or somewhere in between, they can engage in this assessment, and then it can provide our educators with information on what the students are ready to learn now. It aligns to instructional levels and objectives, and it also has links to instructional tools that we are utilizing to provide supports for our students, such as our Imagine Learning platform that I've shared, Khan Academy, and Lexia. So what is NWEA Map Growth? Well, we have a lot of acronyms, as we know, in education. And NWEA stands for Northwest Evaluation Association. The MAP stands for Measures Academic Progress. And again, it's a growth assessment. So this assessment is going to provide us as educators information or growth material on our students over time. It aligns with the Common Core standards. And one of the key functions of this assessment is that it's adaptive. So I presented to you before in the spring, and I talked about this test being adaptive. And what that means is the students start taking the assessment, and the questions adapt in difficulty depending upon the questions that the student previously answered. So for example, they're answering questions correctly, and then they progressively get harder level. And then if they miss a question, over time it starts to adapt so that it finds that optimal level of instruction, that zone of proximal development, as we know as educators. And this assessment also gives us scores in what is called a Writ Continuum. And Writ is a measurement unit that actually provides information to make reading assessment data more manageable. It's a continuous unit. You can think of it as, we had the example shared with us that if you have at your house a growth chart. I have 2 daughters, and I have a growth chart where, I mark their height over time, and you're measuring their growth over time. This assessment gives us data that measures the student's growth over time, but also it pinpoints and targets what the child is ready to learn at this moment. And Ms. Golson's going to go into that in more detail in just a moment. Again, this is not a grade level assessment. The purpose of this assessment and why we decided to move forward with this as a district is because it gives us that timely data. It gives us either standards, or the teachers can pull up skills that groups of students, the entire class, or individual students are ready to learn now. So I'm going to pass it on, and Lisa's going to go into more detail.
Hello, I'm Lisa Golson. Nice to address all of you tonight. I do not believe in assessment for the sake of assessment. I am a teacher first and foremost, and I am very excited about what this has available to me as a teacher. And the first one I'm going to show to you tonight is the Learning Continuum. The material that's here is just a snapshot because of student data and privacy. Of course, I can't take you in and show you the live thing. They don't have any actual demo data in there. It's just the opportunity for you to see the kind of thing that our teachers can see. So the first thing you're going to see tonight is called the Learning Continuum. And the Learning Continuum is just that. It gives us a range of instruction within our classroom. So this Learning Continuum has the data, and it can be organized by topic or it can be organized by standard, depending upon the teacher's preference. And it will show where the students are at and what they're ready to learn today. This is a sample. It is a selection that shows you just one part of it. It's just focusing on the ELA strand of setting because it's so much information that it's really hard to digest all of it in one go. I wanted you to just kind of get a sense of what it is you're looking at for a group of students. So on the left-hand side, you see the little Writ scores. Those are the numbers that correlate to specific strands of information, the objectives or the learning goals or targets or standards if it's organized by standards. On the right-hand side, you see students, and those students are grouped according to where they fall after taking the assessment and what it is they're ready to learn today. You can see from the top to the bottom as you're reading through those standards or topics that it starts to develop and grow, and there's layers for each level that you're looking at. I, as a student or I, as a teacher, can learn from this. So when I look at this as a teacher, I look at it and say, okay, the lesson I'm teaching tomorrow happens to be using setting. What kinds of questions or things might help support my students that are more struggling? I know who my strugglers are. This test doesn't necessarily unearth that, but what it does is show me what they're really ready to learn. And it can help pinpoint the kinds of questions or scaffolds that that student is ready to learn. On the flip side, for my students that are down at the bottom end of this list, which happens to be the higher end, I know those students need a challenge, right? Those students already perhaps have mastered what it is I'm teaching that day. So there are suggestions for me within the setting, the same context, the same lesson I'm giving. What are questions or things that I could draw out that would support those students? So one of the beauties of this particular assessment is that it allows any student, wherever they're at, to fall in that strand, and for me as a teacher to be able to get ideas to support them all. So that's for me the big thing, right? This is the meat and potatoes that I've been sharing over the last few weeks with our teachers. Like, unlike most assessments where you just get, this is the kid's label, this is where they fall, you know, the red, green, blue, whatever it is, and then move on. This actually gives me more information, right? As a teacher, I can look in there and say, what am I going to teach next? And how do I support my group, or how do I support an individual? So that's what the Learning Continuum does. Helps us focus, helps us see it. Okay? You have additional pieces. The next one is a class breakdown by Writ. And I've highlighted one student in here because I saw this over and over again looking at different people's data, that a student is not just struggling. There may be areas where they're successful, areas where they're not. And the class breakdown by Writ sort of gives us that overview. So again, as a teacher, I can get a quick glance to see which of my students are struggling in which areas, but I also can see areas that maybe that same student isn't struggling. One example, I was looking at a Writ breakdown in a particular classroom, and there was a teacher who had a student who was really struggling in two areas, but was phenomenal in geometry. Had a flip side, a very high-level student who was struggling in geometry. Perfect pairing, because not only can she raise the status of that traditionally struggling student, because they're now paired with the smart kid in the classroom, you get that whole idea of who can I put together that will benefit everyone? What do my groups look like? You get more information as a teacher than you traditionally would with any assessments. Right? So this class breakdown by Writ can help you with individuals, with pairing, with grouping your students, meeting the needs overall. So again, a great tool as a teacher. The last one is the student profile. I linked it in here. We're not sharing that at this point because this is a growth measure and this is our baseline. We don't have a whole lot of growth. It's in there for you to take a look at if you'd like. The language in the student profile is excellent, and some of our teachers have been using that to help them with the ideas of how to put things in report cards and that sort of thing. But at this point, it doesn't have a whole lot of data because this is our baseline. This is a growth model, and we don't have growth yet. So our next steps. Right now, we've been training all of our teachers, all of our administrators. What is it that NWA is doing for you? Making sure they all understand that learning continuum, that they've all seen that class breakdown, that they have a sense of what the tool does for them. We've also been making sure that we're having a conversation about how are we administering it? Are we doing it in a way that you feel comfortable with? Is there more we could be doing? Is there more we can be doing supporting you as a teacher? Is there more we can be doing to support you as a student? So having those kinds of conversations in small groups, in staffs, in departments across the district. And that conversation will continue. Also looking at administration for our winter, like when does that make sense? Do we need to change something about the way we did it the last time? Did we offer enough time? Things like that. So looking at this year as our, how do we really develop this so that everyone has confidence in how we're giving it, everyone has confidence in the information that's being given back, and then hopefully by the end of the year we have some nice solid growth data that we can start to share. Questions? I've also
I think you answered it, but because I was wondering about the support in terms of looking at the data and things like that. So it sounds like you've already been working with teachers to make sure that they're supported. And then the testing, so you haven't had the first test yet. It's going to be coming up in the upcoming window?
Actually, we've already had the first
Okay,
assessment.
okay.
There will be a mid-year assessment. So
Okay,
the first
fine.
assessment generated the data so that we could then start teaching about how to look at the data.
Okay.
And my goal for this whole school year is helping teachers and administrators see it, understand it, so that we know that we're giving an assessment that's useful and how to use it. One last thing I'll mention real quickly that I didn't, you have the NWA implementation plan that has a lot of detail for this year. You'll already see things that have been lined out just because it actually started last January and, you know, things changed. And I anticipate things will change as the year goes along, just listening to what people need and what should change in terms of adapting, but making sure that by the time we get around to next year, we feel really comfortable. I really look at this as a 3-year plan of rolling it out and making sure that this is a positive assessment, that we can use it as a tool. One of the reasons that I picked NWA along with our team as we were looking at all of these things 3 years ago now, it's been a while, was that their motto was who owns the data? And to me, that was such an aha. In our district, who owned the data? Well, I'm a data dork, I did, but my kids didn't, the teachers didn't. So one of my goals for this, and one of their goals as a system, is that everyone within the system owns the data, not just one person, not just one level of people. So, yes.
So I have one more question. And I want to thank you because I actually think this is an amazing program. I am familiar with it. How are we rolling our parents into this so they know what we're doing, they know why we're doing it, not just getting the report at the end of the testing window, but what does it mean? What's the impact to their, so how are we bringing our parents on board?
And I think it's a little wonky because last spring, you all know, we did give this and we had to send home data in lieu of SBAC. So there was a little bit of the cart before the horse. So having to share out information because of that specific situation, a little bit strange. But if you look in the plan, you'll notice in the spring that parent forums and having parent training is absolutely part of it. Because sending home data at the end of the year without having some sort of foundation doesn't make sense. All the way along, we have been sending home letters to parents with information about what MAP is and videos and tutorials so that for those who wanted to know what it was their children were doing tomorrow, could certainly find out. But at this point, the focus is really on making sure that it's being administered in a way that's authentic, because that's part of the challenge, and really focusing on the teachers using the data.
Right, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. All right, so next is item 12, non-consent action items. Consideration and approval for the certificated substitute teachers paid during the 2021-22 school year. Dr. Gill.
Good evening, trustees, superintendent, cabinet, and community members. So this is an item we had brought forward to you, I believe, not the last board meeting, the board meeting before. The market is very competitive. We thought we were going ahead of the game by bringing and asking for you to raise substitute rate, but literally the next day we found out like several school districts around us had already increased their rate like a lot. So we went back and compared ourselves. Mr. Rahal did an excellent job doing a comparison, his math brain. So what we're bringing forward to you now is it's not the top notch rate because there are a couple of districts, especially one who went like really crazy. So we want to stay above average, like at the maybe 80% percentile range, so that we can still provide the really good. We can recruit subs. One of the things this does is for all of the cells except the last cell, it actually gives us a leg up as compared to several other districts in close to us, because we're competing basically within the district. There are 30 miles within radius with us, so we did pay attention to that. Another thing it does is the last cell still is less than the lowest teacher salary. We wanted to keep those two things in mind, so that our regular teachers still make more money than the subs, even though we are desperate to find subs. So we had to be respectful and keep those things in mind. So we're bringing this back to you. Again, the intent of this is only to increase and for this school year. And then like we discussed last time, we can revisit it at the end of the school year and saying, what should we do for the following year? What will be a reasonable thing to do for the following year? Questions?
I just want to reiterate what I said last time, and that is, first of all, I'd like to say that Mrs. Rice and Mrs. Golson their presentation showed how complicated a teacher's job is now. The complexity of teaching these days grows exponentially. So if we pay less, if we pay substitute teachers less, we are doing ourselves a disservice if we don't match the surroundings. So I'm so glad you did that research to see where we are. I'm going to say this again, and I will probably say it more often than not, is that in the LCAP, one of the LCAP's stipulations is that all children will read on grade level by 3rd grade. Well, if the reading specialist is always being pulled out to be a substitute in a classroom, it's a setup to fail. We need substitutes. If principals are always being pulled out to get into the classroom, they can't do their job either. So I'm just going to say that although I am going to vote in the positive for this, we said that in March it will come back. And I think that that's really important. I think that our substitute problem has a long way to go. And we need to look at what's in the LCAP. We need to look at many departments have increased their staffing due to COVID, due to increased requirements. And I think that we need to look at our classrooms and say, same thing. We need substitutes that are paid, that are trained, can teach the curriculum. Our students deserve that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'd like to call for a motion.
Oh, well, I know.
Okay.
Yeah, please go and I'll
I'll move
second
to
it.
approve the recommended certificated substitute teachers' pay increase for the 21-22 school year only.
Oh my. I'm going to second this, but object to the word this year only. Can I do that? I know.
We will bring it back. We will bring this agenda item back again in the spring for the future years.
Okay, I'll second.
Trustee Moss.
Yes.
Trustee Ferrucci.
Yes.
And Trustee Gross.
Yes, with reservation.
All right, so next is item 12.2, which is a consideration and approval of new job description for senior accounting and attendance analyst. Dr. Gill.
Thank you, ma'am. So this, we actually currently have this job description already. It is called Senior Accounting Assistant. We are asking to change it to Senior Accounting and Attendance Analyst. The reason behind that is because of COVID, because of independent study. Independent study this year is very different from previous years. How you calculate attendance and independent study for the actual instant study program, short term and long term, is extremely complex. So we would like to revise this job description so that part is included in there and those duties are also included, because those calculations must be done accurately so that we can receive correct ADA. If we don't do those calculations correctly and we don't have a person who is responsible for it, then we will not get correct ADA for those. So we are requesting for you to approve this job description by adding attendance duties in it.
I'll move to approve the new job description for senior accounting and attendance analyst as presented.
I'll second it.
Trustee Moss.
Yes.
Trustee Ferrucci.
Yes.
And Trustee Gross.
Yes.
All right, next item is 12.3, consideration and ratification of the revised Classified School Employee Association number 1096 salary schedule for the 2021-2022 school year.
Thank you. So this one is, let me try my best to explain it. It's a little complex. So we have two jobs in our classified salary schedule. They're CSEA, under CSEA. The lead groundkeeper is the person who's kind of like the lead of the maintenance technician, grounds people, right? So there is another job description job within that group of people is called grounds and maintenance technician. For some reason, when the second job was created, it just didn't pay attention to where it was being placed on salary. So what happened at that time was the groundskeeper position, it was already placed at 42. The technician position, which is under the ground lead, got placed at a higher salary schedule. So right now, the grounds and maintenance technician position is vacant. Since it's vacant, it's not going to impact an employee. Classified CSA reached out to us and they said this will be a good time to make the change. So please swap the range. That's all we're doing. We're making bringing the grounds lead keeper to 43 and the technician to 42. We're just swapping them per request from CSEA and Alfredo Romero, who's the director of maintenance.
Your motion?
I'll second.
Thank you for.
Trustee Moss.
Yes.
Trustee Ferrucci. And Trustee Gross.
Yes.
All right, well, looks like we've come to the end. Item 13 is adjournment. So our next meeting will be on November 4th.
Thank you.